And the Umbrella Corporation stole it, and then like it all comes down to semantics. Charles Ashford found a way to cure his daughter, and James Marcus discovered the T virus to cure his daughter. If it was Ashford, Jared Harris, then that means Marcus stole his research, squandering any sympathy the final chapter asked to have for him. He's the father of Milla, the original Milla, not the clone. And then if Marcus created it, then that means Ashford stole it from him, which also loses any sympathy that Apocalypse asked the audience to have for him. So
I don't think that anyone had to steal it from anybody. It's going to be company property, and there are probably like 80,000 different patents of variations of what they did with that T virus.
All right, then that's fine.
But I mean, just like from the very practical, real world science aspect that will never ever be illustrated properly in a movie. Like you need to know too much usually, but it's like they probably had so many iterations of that, and you probably had teams of scientists involved.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But it's certainly, I'm not dismissing the validity of the claim, because as it was presented, it just looks like, major inconsistencies. As it was presented in the movie to us, it wasn't presented with the fairness that I just stated.
I guess the one thing about this is that they made it so far. They made these movies over 15 years, 2002 to 2017, and they made 6 of them, so they weren't coming out all the time. And I bet there are just moments where Paul W.S. Anderson's like, whatever. Like, it's like the new Halloween, which forgets all the other Halloweens except for the first Halloween. Like, right. He was like, I mean, it still makes sense. You just can't dig into it. And I never dug that deep into this series anyway.
So I've got one inconsistency thing, and maybe I didn't catch, a line of dialogue or something. Maybe this is on that list, but Alice had to go in this movie all the way back to the hive where everything started, where there was apparently an antivirus. So was it there for all 6 movies?
Oh, crap.
Because like she's there, and then they leave, and then they eventually kind of come back, and they leave, and they're going all over the world. Evil goes global. We go to the White House. Now we're in this movie, and it's like, oh, we're going all the way back to the hive because there was this antivirus there the whole time. And if it was, now hold on now, if it was there the whole time, or regardless of where it was, the Red Queen would have known about it in the first movie.
Yeah.
And wouldn't have had to keep them trapped there to kill them to appear to be the villain. Right? Now it's possible that I missed something here, across all these movies, but could this all have been solved in movie 1?
Yeah, because they stayed there the whole time, correct? And all the clones were just waiting.
We're all over the world.
Well, and I want to draw a map.
This thing was just there.
I want to draw a map of where Alice traveled over the 10 years.
I'd also like to address that while I am not strong in epidemiology or immunology or any of these things, they have nothing to do with my educational background. But it seems to me that this movie thinks that if you have an antivirus that is airborne and you just release it, the virus will live forever, is indestructible, and eventually it will permeate everywhere on the planet.
I mean, in this world.
Right, but that's one hell of an antivirus. Just saying, it's.
I mean, that's a legit well, because the other one did that too, right? The other one that spread all over the world. She said it spread all over the world in days.
Yeah, but
people
virus,
carried it. But people carried
virus,
it.
yeah, is being vectored from one host to another. This antivirus is just killing it. It's not like it is a virus that goes and hops around. So that's it's like an anti-venom almost.
Jeez Louise.
Now, if they said that it itself was also a virus, that's cool. But then if it's killing all of its hosts, how is it later being transferred somewhere else alive? Otherwise, the virus will just die.
Oh, brother. It just happens.
But again, a little hand waving is based on video games.
Yeah, this yada yada. But you know what annoys me? I guess speaking of hand waving and yada yada, I was kind of bummed that the ending of the 5th one, they just completely ignore. And then they go to the ending of the 6th one. It's like, hey, he fooled you. Like, Wesker brings them all to DC. And then we learn. 5. Yeah. And then at the end of part. And then he just tricks them. And then everyone's dead. Well, Bing Bing Lee couldn't come back. They never asked the other lady. So it's just Milla. who got tricked by a guy. Like,
Right.
That's not a really great way to start a movie. Like, Wesker just tricked us.
Right. They even threw the line of dialogue out there like, and he fooled you into thinking that he gave you your powers back. Isn't that really obvious with this T-virus, by the way, when you're suddenly superhuman? Like, if you stub your toe, it doesn't hurt.
I wish he would have done Dark Helmet and been like, fooled you.
Fooled you.
But I have to say, the first 15 minutes are tough for me. Because Alice gets tricked 3 times and snuck up on 3 times. In the first, 3 minutes of this movie. Or, 50 minutes.
Including the bloated water zombie that I maintain was stolen from The Walking Dead.
Yeah, from the well.
Yeah.
And this one just doesn't rip in half when they're trying to rip it from the well. But there's so there's a scene where she wakes up, she tries to drink gross water, the thing pops up at her, and then there's a dragon that's just hiding under rubble. So,
yep.
Wait, has this thing been hiding under rubble for that long?
For the days since that battle that ended part 5, I guess.
So it's just been hiding under rubble. So she has a zombie, and then that thing comes out of nowhere, and then she drives in a straight line and kills the flying lizard. Which, I mean, whatever. It's good CGI.
With a crane claw tail butt thing.
So
that is not practical.
She just drives into it, and then she gets on a motorcycle. She walks up to this bridge. She gets caught, right? Kills some guys upside down. Hence the question. And then she gets on a motorcycle, and then that shocks her. Then she gets kidnapped. So in the first 15 minutes of this movie, you have a bloated zombie. A thing sneaks up on her. She gets trapped. Then she gets electrocuted. It's not a great way to deal with your main character. And I just think Alice has been through so much in 10 years. She wouldn't be caught like she is in the third one. Well,
yeah, and she's in. This movie more than any of the others really reminds me of The Walking Dead, by the way. A lot of the imagery, the scapes when she's on the motorcycle and it's what is it, a crane shot or something, or maybe it's just CGI. The use of the zombie hordes, and kind of corralling them and using them as tools, a lot of this stuff up. But now the ambush scene, I'm not going to liken to The Walking Dead. That's an 89 things. That you'd get that in The Road. You get that in any post-apocalyptic thing. But it just felt like that. But so going with that, in part 4, we learned that she had spent a year. She tried to go to Alaska. Oh no, the virus was there. So now she's just been going around searching for people and her friends or whatever. So she has been on the road in this zompocalypse. Solo, right? Scavenging, presumably, a la Walking Dead or something. So she would be probably really wise to this kind of trap where there's this motorcycle propped up. There's a good resource available.
Yeah.
She'd probably be better at spotting people hiding around and knowing the tells. I feel like she should be smarter than them.
Yeah, I know you're supposed to think that this is Resident Evil, but it just seemed weird to just I don't know, just put her in these situations in the first 15 minutes of the movie.
And maybe this would make sense to you with more of a filmmaking background, but because there was the bigger gap since the last movie, there were 4 or 5 years, because they weren't popping out a movie every 2 or 3 years like they were before. Do you think that they just knew that people weren't going to rewatch all these movies and they needed to remind you that she isn't always superhuman or something? Do you think, I don't know, do you think that there was a decision behind having her get had like this over and over again in the beginning? She's new to this or something?
I guess it gets her, all these things lead her to getting back on, it gets her in that tank, right?
Right.
So
into the mobile zealot tank cult,
tankmobile
with wild-eyed, damn near Nicolas Cage, Dr. Isaacs,
and the people in there were all about it too, right? Yeah. They were like, throw her
except
out.
For the prisoners, right?
The prisoners started turning on her too, didn't they?
Right, because I think if they showed support or alliance or anything, they would be the next to be punished.
Get her out of here.
Yes. So that was some zaniness there too, just with all that, with the tanks.
I mean, I like the visual though. I just worried if their batteries went.
Right.
I mean, that would be kind of, I mean, I don't care how impractical that is. I think it's pretty cool. And then I guess it leads to a scene where she has a massive tank fight with Ser Jorah Mormont and cuts off his hand and steals a motorcycle. So she's learning. She's getting better.
Yeah.
And then
Pretty quickly.
she's a fast learner. All right. So she meets up with Ser Jorah Mormont or Ian Glenn or whatever the character's name is, and Dr. Isaacs. And she's on this. He explains that they're going to go back to the home, right, to destroy it. The remaining humans. She escapes, and she goes and finds some ragtag survivors with Claire, played by Ali Larter, and a bunch of dudes we don't care about. Do you think the Resident Evil... I was going to ask you this, John. I think one of my least favorite thing about the Resident Evil movies are just all the random dudes that no one cares about who are introduced.
Yeah, and on top of that, I'll say that in this movie, I cared about the ragtags even less than the other movies.
I like, who's the dude from 2 and 3?
I know, Carlos.
Yeah, Carlos. I like him a lot. Boris was cool, the basketball, the athlete guy, I forget his name. I liked him, I thought he had personality. But like Leon and the other people, I just never, and then so in this one they introduced 3 new dudes who you're supposed to care about. I'm like, they're gonna die.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan. And again, Ruby Rose she was just like the most spunky character. She seemed to be the most interesting character, but they didn't really give her a lot either.
And I just want you to know something, John. She builds trebuchets. And
right, she does.
I'm a trebuchet guy. So when I saw that again, I mean, Alice becomes full-on general in their scene.
I like that her knowledge of trebuchets was justified by one line of dialogue of, "Oh, my dad had an auto shop or whatever."
Yeah. I mean,
it's like, look, people have dads that do a lot of things. That doesn't mean that you know this, and we're equating changing a carburetor to turning a crane into a trebuchet.
A fully functioning trebuchet.
Strikingly accurate too. Remember when she's putting the marks?
Yeah.
For like 1, 2, 3 or whatever. So did they test that, or are we just relying on Ruby Rose's auto shop history to do all the calculations? Like, is she pulling out a protractor?
And why did they take part in this battle? Couldn't they have just gone to the hive immediately?
I think it was because that zombie horde was coming to their home. Yeah, they could have just left.
I mean, they had a terrible fortification, too. Like, they weren't on a side street. A road just pointed right at them.
Right. And that building did not look as safe as they suggested. That looked menacingly dangerous to me. And when Dr. Isaacs has his plan, when he uses the human, the living human, like, and then they're like, "Oh, there's a survivor, save her." I was like getting up, yelling at the screen like my football team was losing at what I considered the immense idiocy of Alice and her crew, like throwing their whole plan out the window to leave the gates open or something for this survivor. When clearly we know what's going on. Like, he released her for this. And it's like, guys, you're all going to die. I mean, I know you're not going to die because it's only minute, 35 of the movie. But, like, if you didn't know the rules of movies and how long the movie was and that these heroes were supposed to live or win, like, you'd be like, you guys let her die. Like, you all might die. Like, I was upset. That was actually, like, I have fun teasing a lot of things about this movie, but it's just all in fun. That scene where they're just like, "Oh, there's a survivor, lower it. Then they're leaving the building to go shoot things and try and help. I'm just like pulling out what little hair I have left, Mark. I was bothered by that.
And why did they have to hold the gate? Couldn't they have just knocked out all the steps and let the zombies pile in? And then dump the stuff on them? Because the zombies wouldn't have a way to come up if they, like, blew away all the stairs.
Right.
Are we going too in depth about this battle?
I don't know, maybe. Well, couldn't they just get those, well, I guess they're not controlling them, but you had those flying hell drakes from the first monster that Alice killed. Like, what is their purpose? Do they, like, just grab a handful of zombies and drop them somewhere? Like, someone designed that monster to look like that. I want to know why they put a big giant hand like a construction site to